2 out of 3 new Social Security claimants recently filed before full retirement age. 2 out of 3. And if you listen to most retirement advice, that sounds like a huge mistake. Wait until 70, they say. Get the bigger check. Do not leave money on the table. But maybe millions of Americans are not just bad at math. Maybe they are tired. Maybe they lost a job earlier than planned. Maybe their knees, their back, their health, or their spouse changed the plan. Maybe they looked at 8 more years of waiting and quietly asked, "Can I actually afford to wait?" That is the part most spreadsheets do not show. Waiting until 70 is not free, because if you do not claim at 62, you still have to pay for the 8 years between 62 and 70. Groceries, health insurance before Medicare, property taxes, home repairs, car repairs, dental bills, adult children who need help, normal life. So the real question is not always which check is bigger. Sometimes the real question is, what do I have to damage while I wait for the bigger check? Let me show you through 2 men. Robert is 62. He worked for nearly 4 decades, raised 2 kids, and saved about $500,000 across his 401k and IRA. His house is not paid off yet, but the mortgage is manageable. He is tired but proud. He did what middle-class Americans are told to do. Now he wants to retire. His Social Security estimate looks simple: about $2,100 a month if he claims at 62, around $3,000 if he waits until full retirement age, and close to $3,700 if he delays until 70. Robert looks at those numbers and thinks, why would I take less? So he waits. James is also 62. He has about $520,000 saved. Not rich, not poor. Just a normal middle-class retirement account after decades of work. He also has a mortgage, property taxes, insurance, and a car that is one repair away from becoming a problem. James sees similar Social Security numbers. But he asks a different question. What am I going to live on until 70? That one question changes everything. Check number 1. What pays for the wait? Waiting until 70 sounds passive, but it is an 8-year financial bridge. If Robert needs about $4,000 a month to cover his life, 8 years of waiting could require up to $384,000 in withdrawals. Before market losses, inflation, taxes, or surprise expenses. That is not a small bridge. That is almost an entire retirement account for some families. At first, Robert feels fine. He withdraws from his IRA, bills get paid, the plan feels smart. Then the market drops. Not a once-in, a minus-century crash, just a normal, ugly retirement market. His portfolio falls, but his bills do not. The mortgage still comes due. Health insurance still comes due. Groceries still cost more than they used to. So Robert sells investments while they are down, not because he wants to, because he has to live. And every share sold during a downturn is a share that cannot recover later. This is where the bigger Social Security check can become misleading. Yes, Robert may get more income at 70, but if he damages his portfolio between 62 and 70, the bigger check may arrive after the damage has already been done. James takes a different path. He claims Social Security at 62. His check is smaller, around $2,100 a month. But that smaller check immediately reduces pressure on his portfolio. Instead of pulling $4,000 a month from investments, he may only need to pull around $1,900. That does not make him rich, but it gives his retirement account room to breathe. If the market drops, James does not have to sell as much. If the market recovers, more of his money is still there to recover with it. Is James automatically right? No. But he understands something Robert ignored. The early years of retirement can be more dangerous than the later years. Check number 2. Are you protecting the biggest check or the portfolio? A lot of Social Security advice focuses on maximizing the monthly benefit. But retirement is not only about the benefit, it is about the whole system. Your Social Security, your savings, your taxes, your health, your spouse, your ability to work, your monthly expenses, your risk tolerance if Social Security will be your main income later in life, waiting can be extremely valuable. A larger guaranteed check can protect an older retiree from inflation, longevity risk, and running out of savings. But if waiting forces you to drain your portfolio too fast, the math changes. Imagine two retirees. One waits until 70 and gets the bigger check, but spends down $250,000 to $350,000 of investments to get there. The other claims earlier, gets a smaller check, but keeps more money invested and avoids selling heavily in a bad market. Which one is safer? The answer depends on the person. But it is no longer obvious. Robert thought safety meant a larger check later. James thought safety meant not putting all the pressure on his portfolio during the first 8 years of retirement. Same decision, different risk. Check number 3. What is your real break? Even age. The classic Social Security question is break even. If you claim at 62, you get smaller checks for more years. If you wait until 70, you get bigger checks for fewer years. At some point, the person who waited catches up. For many people, that crossover is somewhere around the early 80s. So the standard advice sounds simple. If you live long, waiting wins. If you do not, claiming early wins. But here is the uncomfortable part. You do not live inside an average. Robert looks at general life expectancy and says, people live longer now. I should wait. But his father died at 74. His uncle died at 76. Robert has high blood pressure, back pain, extra weight, and a job that wore him down for 35 years. He does not want to talk about that. Most people do not. But retirement planning without an honest conversation about health is not planning. It is pretending. James is not betting that he will die young. He is refusing to pretend that every 62-year-old has the same body, the same family history, and the same energy. He says, I might live to 90, but I know I have more freedom at 62 than I probably will at 82. And that leads to the part most spreadsheets cannot measure. Check number 4. When will the money matter most? A dollar at 62 is not always the same as a dollar at 82. At 62, money may buy travel, movement, time with grandchildren, apart, time transition, helping a child, or finally stepping away from a job that has been draining you for years. At 82, money still matters, sometimes even more, but it often buys different things: medical care, help around the house, stability, protection, and peace of mind. Both matter, but they are not the same. Robert spends his early retirement waiting. He keeps telling himself, at 70, this will all feel worth it. But in the meantime, he postpones a trip with his wife. Then another. He cuts back on helping his daughter. He takes time work he did not really want because the withdrawals feel uncomfortable. He is not broke, but his retirement feels like a waiting room. James lives more modestly, but with more control. His smaller check does not cover everything, but it creates a base. He withdraws less from investments. He takes a short trip to see his son. He helps with a grandchild's summer camp. He works part-time only when he wants to, not because fear pushed him back into the labor market. The difference is not luxury. The difference is control. And for many retirees, control is worth more than a larger check that arrives years later. Check number 5. Who else depends on your decision? This is where the story gets more serious. Social Security is not always an individual decision. If Robert is married and his benefit is much larger than his wife's, waiting until 70 may protect her later. When one spouse dies, the surviving spouse may be able to receive the larger benefit. That can matter a lot. For a couple, the higher earner delaying can sometimes be one of the strongest forms of protection for the surviving spouse. So no, claiming at 62 is not always smart, and waiting until 70 is not always foolish. If you are still working and earning too much before full retirement age, claiming early can create problems. If Social Security will be your main retirement income, waiting may be safer. If you are healthy, have long-lived parents, low expenses, and a strong portfolio, waiting may be the better move. But if waiting forces you to burn through investments, keep working years you no longer have the health for, or postpone the only active retirement years you may get, then the biggest check may not be the safest check. By 70, Robert finally receives the larger Social Security payment. The check feels good, but when he looks at his portfolio, the feeling is mixed. Yes, his monthly benefit is higher, but the 8-year bridge cost more than he expected. Market drops, withdrawals, taxes, and normal life all took their share. He is not ruined, but he has less flexibility than he thought he would. James at 70 receives the smaller check. That is real. But his portfolio did not carry the full weight of retirement for 8 straight years. He did not spend 62 to 70 sitting in a financial waiting room. He used Social Security as one piece of a larger plan. So who made the better decision? The honest answer is this. It depends on what they were trying to protect. If Robert was protecting a spouse, a long life, and guaranteed income in his 80s, waiting may have been right. If James was protecting cash flow, portfolio survival, and active years, claiming at 62 may have been right. The mistake is not claiming at 62. The mistake is not waiting until 70. The mistake is letting one rule make the decision for you. Before you decide, ask 5 questions. What will pay for my life between 62 and 70? What happens if the market drops while I am waiting? What is my real break-even age based on my health, not just averages? Will a spouse depend on my benefit later? And am I trying to maximize the biggest check or build the most stable life? Financial media loves clean answers. Real retirement is not clean. A spreadsheet can show the bigger check. It can show break-even. It can show lifetime totals. But it may not show fatigue. It may not show the job you cannot keep doing. It may not show the bear market in year 2. It may not show the spouse who outlives you. It may not show the grandkids growing up while you keep waiting. Social Security is not a trophy for perfect math. It is a tool, and the same tool can protect one family while hurting another. So do not only ask, when do I get the most money? Ask, when does this money make my life more secure? Because sometimes the biggest check is not the safest check. And sometimes claiming Social Security at 62 does not mean giving up. Sometimes it means you finally stop waiting for the life you already earned.